Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are celebrating the memory of a fantastic, wonderful, amazing, all those adjectives, artist from, all of comics. I don't know. He was mainly a DC artist, I think, but he did some other stuff. But the wonderful artist Neil Adams passed away a couple weeks ago now. And if you don't know who he is, he was really big in the 70s. He's the guy who created or co-created Ra's al Ghul for Batman. He also brought Batman back from like the campy 60s era. He was the cool 70s shirtless Batman with the hairy chest guy. Like he made Batman badass again.
Yeah. Well, and like re-looking over all this stuff, I was like, wow, like all of the like caricatures that you think of kind of like in general for these
For model. Yeah, like that is
like
the guy.
Neil Adams' designs is what you think of probably.
Probably, yeah.
Right, like if you
he's definitely an era. Like
yeah.
if you've probably seen his art. For reference, he did Muhammad Ali versus Superman.
Yeah.
He did like some really big comics.
His Batman's the blue cowl with the the gray.
Yeah, he's got the blue and the gray. A lot of his episodes were turned into animated Batman episodes for the original animated series.
Oh, that's right.
So that Ra's al Ghul episode where he goes and like where the Lazarus Pit's first introduced, that's all his story arc and everything. That's why I think he's the first guy to ever do this. Batman takes off his shirt and his cowl is still on, but he's shirtless Batman in that. He doesn't have the hairy chest, but that's where it came from.
Nice.
It's like that. Like his cape and shirt can come off, but his cowl stays on. It's pretty awesome. I love the way that he does that. He also created Deadman, which is like kind of a D-list, but he's one of my favorite characters. I think I told John about this last week when we were talking about doing this episode. Deadman, if you don't know, his power is he can possess people. And generally, whenever I've read comics where he possesses someone, he will possess Batman while Batman is in the middle of like solving a murder or in the middle of attacking criminals, and then he will get Batman beaten up, because he's not as good of a fighter as Batman. So I can't remember what issue of Deadman it is, but there's a specific issue of Deadman that I read was like, really? Where he possesses Batman, takes over his body, gets Batman beat up, and then like leaves his body, and then it's like, my bad. Like, it was pretty fucking awesome. So check out Deadman if you want to see more Neil Adams. Check out Batman from the 70s. There are specific Neil Adams collections of Batman because that's how awesome he is. So, and I've read all three of those, and they are all fantastic. Even though, you got to be ready for the 70s. The 70s vibe is there, but it's not nearly as like bad as like the old Stan Lees from like the Silver Age 60s stuff. Like if you can read like this, the stuff we're doing today, which was like kind of an iconic Green Lantern story arc or whatever. This was like, there's not a lot of thought bubbles, dialogue bubbles, and talking bubbles in the same panel. It's not like that. There are thought balloons, there are stuff, but it's like more tasteful. It's not hard to get through or whatever.
Very much so.
Yeah. So what we're doing today is there was a run that he did with Denny O'Neil, who Denny O'Neil also wrote. He wrote a lot with Neil Adams. He worked a lot with him. He wrote The Question that we read a couple, I don't know how many episodes ago, a while back. He wrote the entire Question series from the 80s from DC. He also was the editor on all the 90s Batman, so all the Azrael and Nightfall story arc and all that, when Batman gets his back broke by Bane, that was all him editing and telling people what to do. So that whole story arc, and then of course, like I said, he wrote Batman in the 70s and everything. So he's a very well respected writer who also passed fairly recently ago, I think a couple years ago. So it seems like all of these people are reaching that age where we're going to see them pass, but they were very monumental in the 70s when they were in their prime, we'll say. And
I was just going to say, one of the things I learned from his passing, because like I remember going to Comic-Con and I think I saw him once or twice at one of the Comic Cons we did way back in the day, and then I knew he was like an awesome comic book artist, but I didn't know much more about that. But one of the things I learned is that he fought for like
creative rights.
Like I was like, that's like a cool thing.
So
to be,
he was the reason why DC, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have, like, through the 80s and the 90s, a way better deal for artists and writers on creation of characters. So if you created a character, like Neil Gaiman creates the new Sandman, Morpheus, he has, like, part ownership as far as they can do whatever they want with him, but he gets a fee, like a piece of that. So if they license it, he gets a piece of that. Like the deal is, because before it was like, hey, thanks for that great idea that made us millions of dollars. Hope you got another one, or else you're fired, or we're not going to hire you anymore, because it was all work for hire. It was like, your idea, your artwork is ours. They also used to keep their artwork. It wasn't considered theirs. Like they're like, we hand it in and then we don't get it back. Because now all that artwork would sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it does. But a lot of that doesn't go, like, it's not the creators who own that. It was all like the studio or whatever, DC, whatever, or Marvel. They would just have that art, and some of them burned it. Some of them found out it was worth money and would sell it after the fact. Like the editors or the higher ups would be like, oh, I'll sell this shit. It's, it's trash or whatever, and then, so Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams both, but specifically Neil Adams was really creator rights specific, like pushing for getting your art back, getting credit for stories and stuff, and specifically at DC. And there is a thing where, like I said, DC had a better deal than Marvel did as far as like what percentage you got for creating a new character and whatnot. So that is an interesting thing, like a whole era of the 70s kind of. There's all this social change going on and everything at the same time, which this book has a lot of. This book, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, is what we're reading today, and that was a team up book that was originally part of the Green Lantern series. And I think we talked about it, like, why would they bring a team up kind of thing? It's like either both titles were struggling, and they're like, maybe if we put two in one, it will be good, or it will sell better.
Get some crossover.
Or Green Arrow's doing bad, or Green Lantern's doing bad. I'm assuming it's Green Arrow that was doing bad.
Yeah.
Because it's the Green Lantern story that they put him in. So, but they teamed them up because Green Lantern is basically a space cop, right? So I guess you'd say he's conservative or whatever, because he is a cop. Whereas Green Arrow is it's weird. He's like a Bruce Wayne, like he's a millionaire. Oliver Queen is his name, and he is very well off. He's rich. I don't know if he's rich in this, because they say he lives in like a slummy place or something. So I don't know what was going on in Green Arrow at the time, but maybe he wasn't rich at the time. But just traditionally, or like, throughout comics, I've always known him to be like the second rich guy next to Bruce Wayne in DC. And he is very liberal in this, or as far as like in the 70s, very liberal. So it's very about social change and like, helping out the street level people and stuff, and making it a point to stop corporate corruption or corporate greed or whatever with in inner cities and stuff like that. So whereas Green Lantern, he's on a cosmic scale. He's saving the world from Thanos or whatever, not or Darkseid or whoever, and not thinking about.
I will say that was the first thing that caught me off guard, because I don't think I've ever read anything where Green Lantern was like fighting a thug on the street. Right. So to see this guy who is like has this ring of power and can create anything,
any construct,
and like fighting off cosmic beings, being like, hey, you street thug, I'm gonna catch you and put chains around your arms to like handcuffs. Or like a cop.
Yeah, literally, I'm going to put you under arrest.
I was like, all right.
I was also like, I guess, for some reason, I guess Superman does it too. But like in my mind, like if you have superpowers, you're generally not like just arresting people. I guess you're doing like citizen's arrest at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, because whenever I think of like, the street level heroes are like, they beat up criminals, and they are also criminals, like they're vigilantes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Green Lantern is like sanctioned by the U.S./Earth or whatever, you know. So it's kind of interesting, like that he would, like you said, be on the street level, be like, hey, handcuffs, like, you know, time out or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
so,
literally put you in like a little mini jail cell.
Mini cell. Let's see what you can do. So there's a lot of issues of this first volume of this run. Specifically, this issue, the first issue of it is number 76 of Green Lantern. I think it's volume 2 of Green Lantern because this is way too new to be the volume 1 stuff. So, like, the volume 1 stuff is like, I can't hurt Yellow. And I thought maybe they were going to throw some of that in here because there's a scene in one of the issues with a bus that's yellow, like a school bus. I'm like, are they going to say, like, he can't lift it because it's yellow? Because I wasn't sure, like, what was in the continuity of this. But apparently Yellow, not, like, the thing that's hurting him at this point. I mean, I'm sure it does, but, like, it used to be ridiculous. Like, if I just put yellow paint on me, he can't touch me or whatever. And, like, I think it's a little bit different than that now. But yeah, so officially the cover does say Green Lantern co-starring Green Arrow. And it is, like I said, Green Lantern number 76. And we start off with Hal Jordan. He's flying. He's getting back from a mission or something. He's like, yeah, I'm just checking out Coast City. Looks pretty cool, you know. And he sees, he's flying through the rough part of town, I guess.
Yeah. And
he sees some ruffians or people who he thinks are ruffians picking on a guy in a business suit. And specifically, you know, I think they push him. So they lightly assault him, we'll say, you know. So they broke the law, right? But, you know, so Green Lantern, he flies over. He's like, hey, I got to stop these hoodlums. So he's like, hey, you, stop it. And he, like, you know, basically kind of power rings the people and trips them and then, like, puts them in a top and spins them and they get dizzy. And then, like, he's like, yeah, get out of here, guy. And then he, like, goes to save or pick up the businessman who was on his butt. And the guy's like, well, thanks that you're here, you know, keeping law and order like a good superhero or whatever. And then all of a sudden the neighborhood people that were surrounding them start throwing, like, this was great. Like Green Lantern's like, no need to thank me, everybody. I was just in the neighborhood, you know, like, and then people start throwing cans and shit at him. And they're like, boo, you suck. We don't like that guy. And so we find out that they do not like the man. That's why they were kind of surrounding him and pushing him because he is the owner of their, I guess you could call it tenement, but their building, their apartment complex. He's the landlord, the owner of the property, and he basically is a slumlord, is what they would have called it back then.
Pretty much.
He owns a building. He doesn't upkeep it, but he's trying to sell it now, and kick everybody out, basically. So they're all pissed, and that's why they were pushing him, because he's telling them, we're going to move you out. So as everybody starts throwing cans, the stuff that Green Lantern does in this with his construct ring, and if you don't know, I assume you know, but, like, Green Lantern has a ring, and it's controlled by will, and so he can, like, will anything into being with his mind.
Anything he can think of.
Yeah. So, but generally that can be silly. I don't know if anybody saw the Ryan Reynolds movie Green Lantern in 2009, but if you just get through all the boring parts, there's a couple fight scenes where he wills, like, a race car on a track and shit like that, and that is kind of like it was at the beginning of the Green Lantern run in the 60s. It gets a little bit better, but in this, he's definitely got an umbrella to protect him from the cans falling on him and shit. So
there's several times in this I was like, did he create, like, it's just, like, really simple, silly, like, almost like gadgets, like something you would just.
There's one issue that we didn't read in this because, like I said, this is like a whole collection of, like, a bunch of issues, and so we picked out the best ones. So we're actually reading, like, 3.5 issues basically, but this one is the first issue where they're introduced. So we're gonna, like, it kind of sets the why they're together, you know. So we figured we'd do this first issue, and there's one issue where he makes a giant gun. With it, and it's just like a big revolver that's, like, I don't know, 3 people. It looks like it should be, like, you know, a giant's gun or something, you know, but it just looks silly, you know. It's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
it looked good though. It looked like it'd be a fun issue, you know. So I think a lot of this is definitely more Neil Adams art than the great writing per se from Denny O'Neil, but this does have a lot of I don't know if it's fondly looked at now or, like, well remembered, but it was, like, one of the first comics that brought up social issues. So because this came out in 1970, so it's like right on the heels of the civil rights movement and Dr. King being assassinated and Robert Kennedy being assassinated. So they mention that kind of stuff in this. And that's why they're thinking about these things like, hey, we need to be more social conscious, especially with like the street level heroes. But like, we want to have a team up, so we'll have Green Lantern, who's a conservative.
Someone can learn, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're like a conservative reader, be like, I'm with Green Lantern or what? I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking exactly. It's a little ham-handed, like ham-fisted. Definitely is a little cringy nowadays. And also they do say some words that are not acceptable to say, even if you're putting like a message forward.
No, there is some timely language.
There's racial slurs. There's definitely racial slurs that people will say. So if you can't read those words because you get triggered and stuff, just be aware that those are there. Might want to skip these ones. But they're trying to put a message forward of like, don't be racist. And it's not people that are white saying it to them. It's like the people who are of that race saying those words.
Yeah, it's usually the people of the race being the corrective. Like, well, hey, that's like, we don't say that, or you don't.
Well, no. In this specifically, they're complaining about the racism they face,
or that. Yeah,
and then they're like, they call us, and so just be aware those words are here, and yeah, that's just know that before you go into this and be like, I'm going to read a fun 70s comic that I'm sure my child will like or whatever, and then be like, oh my gosh. Maybe I did not want them to know that word or whatever. So anyway, so they start throwing cans at people, and Green Lantern's like, I don't understand. Like, why are you throwing cans at us? And he like almost begins to punch one of the people that are throwing cans. And then Green Arrow is like, I'm going to throw one of those cans if you don't put him down. And Green Arrow just happened to be in the neighborhood, and they have a discussion. Because Green Lantern, of course, is like, oh, a fellow hero. I'll listen to what he says over like what these thugs, he calls them, or like would say.
These anarchists.
Yeah. I love that he calls them anarchists. I'm like, they're not anarchists at all. They're just dudes on the street that live in this building. But they really push him. And I don't know if he was as like Law and Order before. Like that might be a thing that they pushed for this specific run of the comics just to make it like more sides opposing kind of thing. But Green Lantern is pretty straight like Law and Order in this, which is interesting. And so Green Lantern is like, okay, I'll listen to you, Green Arrow. You're my buddy. Also, if I mix them up because they both have green in the name, just let me know, Joe.
I will. Yeah. So you're doing so good so far. Green and green.
Green. All right. So that's a different thing. That's a type of woodworking. That's a whole other rabbit hole. Anyway. Yeah, so Green Arrow's like, let me show you why this guy sucks and why they're mad at him. So he takes him through this slum apartment building, and he's like, I thought it was funny. He's like, look at all this shit. It's a terrible building. It sucks. And then he's like, but that guy's trying to sell it and kick him out. And it's like, but I thought it sucked. He's like, yeah, but it's all they got. Yeah. It's all they got. So it's like, I guess it sucks, but because it's all they have, it was worse that they'll be out of it or whatever. So that's the argument that Green Lantern makes. Green Arrow makes. It's the first time I messed up. So Green Arrow makes that, and then the best is like fucking Green Arrow goes hard in the paint. He's like, Green Lantern's like, I'm just doing my job. Like I have a job to do and I'm doing it. And Green Arrow goes, yeah, I've heard that before. At the Nazi war trials, like he literally calls him a Nazi, which I was like, wow, yeah, he went real hard in that.
See, people have been doing that.
Yes, they've been doing that for a real long time. And then this was funny. Like this was, they're trying to make Hal Jordan, who is Green Lantern, do a hard turn from like Law and Order or whatever, or at least open his eyes to a different world or a different way he could use his powers. So I just thought it was funny. They're on top of a roof. They've walked up this tenement, and it seems like they're outside the building on the roof. He just got called a Nazi, and then out of nowhere, there's just a black guy on the roof with them. Who I was like, who's this guy?
They're smoking.
He's up there. He's the maintenance guy. I don't know. But like he just interjects himself into the conversation. Like he just heard them arguing, and he's like, "Hey, I heard about you, Green Lantern. I heard you helped those blue people on the planets." He calls them blue skins, and how on a planet someplace you helped out the orange skins. And you've done considerable for the purple skins, but there's only some skins you haven't bothered with, the black skins. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that or not, but
But
it
for
is definitely
context of this,
for context. That's what he says. There's a black character that is saying that, but they say that a couple times, like black skins. I'm like, you probably should stop saying that. Green Arrow or whoever was saying that at that time. Yeah. It wasn't the black guy, I don't think, saying that at that time. But like, yeah, like that's the turn is Green Lantern is shamed by this African American dude that lives in the tenement, or maybe he's a maintenance guy, I don't know. And he's like, shames him into being like, you never helped anybody on Earth.
Yeah, he's like, hey,
specifically minorities that are going through.
Answer me that. When have you? And he's like,
I can't. He starts to cry and
hangs his head in shame.
Yeah. And I will say the art in this is I think that's why this gets picked up as like, wow, good stuff. Because the writing is very, like I said, very ham-fisted. It's very like, we're trying to hit you in the face with a message or whatever. So just be aware of that too. If you are not a fan of political messaging that's very strong and like is not really part of, like, at least it's part of the story. Like, we're trying to make him turn, and that's why we're doing this. So they're, that's why they're doing it. But the art is fantastic in this. Like, specifically when it zooms in on a face, like the African American's face is very detailed and very like stands out like on the page, the way he draws it. So that's why we're highlighting Neil Adams for this more than the writing. But the story is fun. It gets a little bit ridiculous, but so they just like Green Arrow's like, all right, buddy. Like, I think I know. I forgive you for being a dick, and also, like, I think I know what we need to do. Like, we need to like team up and kind of help out people in these neighborhoods and stuff. So, Green Lantern, which I didn't realize this is a thing. This didn't happen so much in the Jeff Johns run in the 2000s, at least not nearly as much. But this is the yellow paint or whatever of this era. Every day, Hal Jordan has to power up his ring.
You got to recharge it.
He's got to recharge it. So he literally has to go to his lantern because he has a green lantern. And he puts his ring in it, and then he has to say the words, in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. And then the rest of it. I don't remember what is it?
Let those who worship evil's might.
Yeah, beware my power Green Lantern's light.
I was gonna say, how do you of all people not remember?
Well, because I was gonna read it, and then I realized, he doesn't say the whole thing, but he charges his ring.
No, because he's thinking to himself, how often have I made that vow? And until today, I believe what I was saying.
Yeah, he basically has like a moment where he realizes like racism is real or whatever, or like still a thing in America.
He's only seen White Lanterns and Alien Lanterns.
There wasn't White Lanterns at this time.
He's the first White Lantern. Yeah.
That's in like 2012 or whatever, 13 though. So,
well,
it's quite a ways from this time period. So, as of now, there's only there's only Green Lanterns. Sinestro isn't even a yellow lantern or anything back in this time period.
I was meaning, I was being racist.
Oh, you mean that he's white? Well, I mean, there's a lot of different lanterns though back in the.
Sure, but I was meaning like from Hal Jordan's perspective, like he had not seen
any of the other lanterns.
Yeah, I didn't see.
I mean, Abin Sur is purple or pink.
Yeah, well, that's what I was meaning, and he was going off of the other guys. I was a bad joke.
Oh,
it's going off what the other guy said, where he was like, "Oh, you've helped all these other people," and he's like, "Well, I've only ever seen pink and purple." And I didn't.
I don't even look at
when I'm on Earth.
I don't even.
I'm not like I'm not fighting cosmic beings. I'm not
in
down
mansions
here on
with
the street.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm in the Hall of Justice where we have people for that or whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying is like, so it was really weird seeing him on street level because like it was also him being like, oh, there's stuff that goes down here, huh? Like, I didn't realize like there wasn't an alien like to defeat and like defend all of Earth. Like it's just these guys down on the street corner who are, roughing up this landlord. And now he's like, okay, we know I'm going to go talk to that landlord.
Yeah, now he feels bad. He's like, you know what? I am going to fight for this tenement building or whatever. So he goes to talk to the landlord and he tells him like, hey, I'm up to your, like, I'm onto you. Like, you need to stop what you're doing. And then this was like the weird thing is like, it's Green Lantern, right? Like he sends his goons, like his bodyguards, like, hey, take him out of here. And they're like, yeah, come on, ring guy. And it's like, this is an established Justice League member, not ring guy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised these people are okay with it. But he, of course, Hal Jordan, he doesn't need a ring. He just punches them.
Yeah.
And he's about to punch the landlord. And all of a sudden, it's not Ganthet, but it's one of the one of the
Owens.
Owens. Yeah, they're Owens,
Okay.
but what are they called? I don't know.
The
The people.
Guardians?
There you go. The Guardians of Oa. The people who, I guess, they're the government
The big
of the Green
blue-headed
Lanterns.
people.
They're the government of the Green Lanterns. They tell the Green Lanterns what to do. The Green Lanterns are the Force, and they are the federal government. All right.
Yes.
So we're gonna put it in those terms. So I don't know what taxes they collect, but they use the Green Lanterns to collect those taxes. So, so yeah, the
Wow.
Owens are blue, and like a big head appears in the room and is like, "Hal Jordan, you have like committed a crime or whatever because you are about to attack a man who has committed no crime legally, at least
Yeah.
that you know of." Which I'm like, how the fuck do they know Earth? Like, do they know all of Earth laws, and are they like following him on everything he's doing? And not only that, if they do.
They should
Later
know
on,
he's-
they know he's fucking bad. Like he is committing real crimes. So
they're not precogs, okay? They're just like
they seem like they are.
I,
They kind of seem like they know
do
what's going to
kinda seem
happen.
like
He
that.
appears as he's about to punch him. So it's like he was in his mind or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe they only know what the Green Lanterns know, and he just knew, hey, Hal Jordan's about to punch a guy that he doesn't like, and it's not a criminal.
yeah, he can feel his feelings for it or something. He's like, "Whoa, calm down.
Yeah,
You don't need to be punching him."
yeah. But anyway, Green Lantern then gets called back right before he punches the guy to Oa, which is like the home world of the Green Lanterns. It's got the battery power, like it's got a giant lantern on it, which is the battery for all the mini lanterns that they take with them.
Everybody gets.
Yeah, everybody gets their lantern that they have to charge with. So
Everybody gets their badge and their gun, and then they take it.
Yeah.
It's their lantern and their ring.
yes, exactly. So or like what would that be? I guess you get bullets and a gun, which is the
Like this,
recharger and but yeah, so he goes to them and they're like, "Why are you attacking that guy? He didn't do anything." And he basically talks him into letting him do it. Like they're like, "Oh, we're well," they say like, "You're wrong, and don't go back there, but you're like you're on probation," kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
whatever. And he's like, "All right, I'm not apologizing though," kind of thing.
You're on paid leave.
Yeah, there you go. So they give
While
him
while we do an internal investigation.
yeah,
on this.
they give him a bullshit mission. Basically, they put him in the sticks. They're like, "Why don't you go stop this meteor shower from hitting Titan?" And he's like,
Why don't you go do traffic duty for the
Yeah. So he has to
I don't
deflect
Titan.
like some meteors, and then in the meantime, Green Arrow goes to visit the landlord, and Green Arrow doesn't give a fuck. He like pins him up on the wall with his arrows, and we get to see like some cool like shooting or whatever of that. And so Green Arrow does a bit of a con here, and he makes the man think that he's gonna he's like what's that called, shaking him down for protection money,
Yeah.
like a protection racket. He's like, obviously your goons suck, Green Lantern beat him, but me, look how good I am, I got past him and I like pinned you to the wall. So how about you meet me at this spot and pay me, and then I will be your protection or whatever. And so that's like the guy says like, yeah, sure, but then he like is like, oh, well, I'm gonna kill that guy, like we're at the meeting place or whatever in his thoughts. So then we get a fantastic 70s panel of someone who doesn't know how to draw a gun, because once again we had a Moon Knight appearance of this. Apparently people in the 70s, artists for DC specifically and Marvel, did not know that you can't silence a revolver. So there's lots of silenced revolvers in a lot of 70s books.
Yes.
So we see the appearance of 2 silenced revolvers in this. And they go to the meeting place. These are the 2 goons, I think, that Green
probably
Lantern
the same
beat
ones.
up or whatever. And they go to the meeting place, and they it's dark, pitch black in this building. They tap on the window and they walk in and they're like, is that you? And then someone says, "Where's Slade?" And they see like a figure in a chair, and then they pull out their guns and boop, 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 and they shoot him. And it's very obvious that these are silenced guns.
Yeah.
So
It's like on the page.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the sound
So
effects.
they just got it wrong. I don't know why. I guess they live in New York or whatever. They don't know what guns look like. So, but yeah. So then they're like, "We got him," and then they like go to check the body, and they're like, "We put 9 slugs in him. Of course he's dead." And they look at it, and it's a dummy. And then Green Arrow then proceeds to beat the shit out of them. And then the best thing, the stupidest thing, I guess, they're like the cheesiest thing, the funny 70s thing of this is Green Arrow's whole plan was to get them to talk and say like literally like, he's like, "Did you bring the money?" They're like, "Yeah, we brought something for you, our guns, so that we could kill you." And then keep the money for our landlord who's gonna burn the tenement
whose
down.
name is and like literally say the whole plan.
Slade or whatever. Yeah. So when they shot at him, he had a tape recorder like recording this in a drawer, which I can't imagine it's getting the best sound anyway. But one of the bullets hit that tape recorder, so he's like, "God damn it! I thought that was gonna work." And then like it cuts to the next scene. So then Green Lantern is back from space. Green Arrow and him talk, and they're like, "Yeah, we got an idea now. We got a plan. We got to hit this head on." And so they pick someone up. I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?"
I think he's like the district attorney, or
yes, no, he is. Later on, they say that, but at first I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" They just show like Green Arrow and Green Lantern talking and be like, "All right, we got to get over to his place soon because we know, like, now we have him for murder, and we just have to get him to say that like on tape or whatever again." And so Green
I got another plan, and it involves a tape.
Another tape, a better tape. And so Green Lantern makes a couch for them to sit on, for him and the district attorney to sit on.
He flies over. It just carried
just a flying couch.
Flying with a couch.
Just a flying couch. That's the stuff that I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. And this is a power I never knew Green Lantern had.
Yes, no, this page confused the hell out of me.
Okay, I didn't confuse me. I was just like, I've never heard of this power.
Well, yeah,
because
that's what I mean. I was just like, what?
Yeah. So we're in the office of the landlord. His goon comes in and goes, "Hey, boss, what's going on?" And the boss is like, "Did you finish him? Did you hit him?" And he's like, "What do you mean? Finish who?" And he's like, "I don't understand." And then the landlord's like, "Green Arrow, did you finish him? Did you kill him? Remember I told you to kill him? Remember that guy I told you to murder?" And then all of a sudden, we see, like a whoa, 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 and like the dude points his hand at his body, and we see it's actually Hal Jordan, and he used his ring to make not a green construct, which is what he always makes with it. He made a full suit and face, like, changes appearance.
Yeah, he disguised himself as one of the thugs, but it wasn't like he was all green.
Which is what it would normally be.
Yeah, like if he came in and he was all green, I would be like, "Oh, that's Green Lantern." But like he came in, he had a green suit and a green hat, but still, like his face wasn't his face. And then he uses this, and all of the disguise disappears as dotted lines, and then his face with his little face mask shows up, and you're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, that was him. Duh, don't you get it? So, so this was great, I thought too. So then, I guess this is just to make sure that we know that he's evil.
Yeah.
Like, right? So, like, of course, they didn't have they didn't have a tape recorder in this. They actually brought the DA so they could hear him in person, which is still not evidence. You still needed the tape recording in order to get this trial.
You just bring the top brass.
Yeah, you just bring the DA to hear him say, "I was gonna kill Green Arrow." But anyway, the district attorney comes out and says, "You're under arrest. I heard all of that." And he's like, "No, I'm not." And the landlord reaches in his desk, and there's a paperweight there it looked like a grenade, and it was a grenade, and it's a live grenade.
It's live.
So he pulls the grenade pin, and I thought this was funny. They're like, "Is it real?" And I'm like, "I don't know, but like, let's just kick it out of his hand in case, get it out of the building." And so Green Lantern makes a big hand that flicks it out of the guy's hand, and it was real. It did explode outside the window.
Right outside the window.
So he had a fucking grenade just in his office, just there.
Just hanging out.
Sure, why not? And then they put him in a big green mouse trap.
Aha, because he's a rat.
Because he's a rat, exactly. And then the district attorney's like, "Thanks, guys. I think you guys are going to be a great team." And then we get like an epilogue where the Owens appear right now, right after that happened. And they're like, "We thought we told you to not mess around with innocent people or whatever." And then Green Lantern's like, "But he wasn't." And then Green Arrow's like, "Hey, Blueface, shut up," basically. He just gets in his face and he's like, "Don't you see what's going on? Like, a black man died recently," and that shows like a picture of Martin Luther King, and then and a good white man or whatever, and it was Robert Kennedy. And then basically they're just showing, like, he's making his argument to them. And I love this because he basically guilts one of the Owens. I don't know which one it is. I assume it's Ganthet because that's the one that's kind of his main talker to. But yeah, so I think it's Ganthet, but it might not be. But he's like, "How dare you be up there and like look down on us and tell us what not to do when all this shit's going on, and there's racial inequality and and like, poor people and poverty and racism and all this stuff. Like how can you live on that? And then they're like, good point. You guys should team up. Why don't you do your thing? So they like basically give Green Lantern like a leave of absence to like go on an American tour with Green Arrow and fighting crime or whatever.
You take a USO tour of let's get in the car and go on a road trip across America. Basically,
yes.
It looks like
it's very weird, but interesting. And they're like they get in a truck and just drive off. And from there, they have about 9 more adventures in different comics that continue their storyline. And then we get to the next big influential arc or storyline that was very, very controversial at the time.
The story arc is fantastic.
It's the cover of issue 85 is what this starts as. It's a 2-issue storyline.
The shocking truth about drugs.
Yeah, DC attacks youth's greatest problem, drugs. So this is before Dare, but it's the Dare issue of DC, and we see on the cover. So just setting this up, Green Arrow has a sidekick that was on the Teen Titans.
Award,
sure, whatever.
You could say something like Batman, where he has
basically, yeah, and they actually dress like Robin Hood, so it's kind of, but he wears red, not green. But his name is Speedy, and I guess before this. In the issues before this, I read a little bit of them. Basically, Green Arrow has like left his ward to do whatever. Like, hey, I gotta go fuck Black Canary. Like that was what was going on. It was basically him and Black Canary got together, and he's like, she got great legs, and so like
I can't have this kid around me.
Yeah. Hey, you go fuck off, kid. I gotta go. Go in the back and say hi to Dinah, if you know what I mean. And, Dinah, won't you blow, if you know what I mean? Wow. What's that old song? Dinah, won't you blow my horn? So yeah, that John just shook his head disappointingly.
We should be recording these videos sometimes.
No, we shouldn't. We should not, because John never wears pants when we record, so we can't do that.
Why would you tell them that?
Because everybody should know what I have to suffer through. So anyway, on this cover, it's very controversial. It has the stamp of Comics Code approval, which means that the censorship board of comics that they put up themselves, this isn't a government board, this is like the MPAA for movies. That rating system is not a government rating system. It is a self-regulation rating system so that parents feel comfortable or whatever.
So you know it's
good. Just like Walmart has the explicit thing on the CDs or whatever. Yeah. So they had this stamp that was like, if you have this stamp, it is approved. And part of that stamp was you can never talk about drugs, even if you're saying they're bad or whatever. You can never say the word like horror or witch or whatever, or you can't have undead or zombies, which is why things like, I think we brought this up before, but like you get into weird situations where it's like Morbius, the living vampire, because you can't have an undead vampire. So it's got to be living or whatever and stuff like that. So, and like Werewolf by Night, he's a good guy that turns into a werewolf, not a bad guy. And, different powers and shit. So you get some kind of weird creative loopholes that people come up with. But I guess Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil were like, no, drugs are a problem. We're going to do this. And DC backed them, which is kind of rare at this time. They were like, yes, we're on board with this. So they really pushed for this to get approval. It did. So that, and the approval meant, just like at Walmart, if you got that sticker that says like explicit, they can't carry it or whatever. So a lot of the newsstands would not carry comics that because you had to get them at news. There was no comic book stores back then, so you had to go to the newsstand, like where people got newspapers and shit, and there would be their comic books there, and they would not carry comics that did not have the stamp because they didn't sell because parents wouldn't buy them for their kids. So, I mean, I don't know if there were comics that didn't get the stamp. I guess it would be like the super underground, like San Francisco comics or something in the 70s, like the Furry Freak Brothers or whatever, like that kind of stuff. But that was all like hippie bullshit that, wasn't selling on the newsstands anyway. That was all like underground stuff, like R. Crumb and whatnot. This was like mainstream, so it had to have a stamp. And on the cover, we see Speedy with a heroin needle and a bottle of, I'm assuming, heroin, but it looks like just a medical bottle.
And a spoon with some kind of something in it.
Yes, and he is just or about to. He doesn't have his vein tied off, so he probably just injected heroin. the needle is not full. So that might be the thing. And we see Green Arrow and Green Lantern looking at him saying, Speedy, my ward, is a junkie. And, it's a very ridiculous cover now, but at the time I'm sure it was like, what? Not Speedy, my favorite Teen Titan. And then, like you said, it says the shocking truth about drugs on the top. So we start off with Green Arrow, who's walking around in his normal persona. He's not in his Green Arrow getup. He's just walking around as Oliver Queen, who is his normal name, or his actual name. And he gets jumped by some junkies who are like, give us your money. And he's like, you picked the wrong day and the wrong guy or whatever. And he just kind of starts beating them up. And then this was fucking hilarious. Out of nowhere, one of these guys has a crossbow. Which is like one of the worst things you could A, get shot with from 5 feet away, and B, having a fight.
Hold on a sec.
Yeah.
Let me pull back this really heavy
300-pound pull. You just stand there while I step on this cord and pull upwards or whatever. But yeah, somehow one of these guys gets the bow.
Yeah, it shows him down on the ground, sitting down to pull the
He's
thing
got
back.
a lot of arm strength, right? You normally have to stand on that to pull it up, but no, this guy, he's got that junkie arm strength, you know? You know how you get that with heroin. And so, yeah, he pulls the crossbow tight, and the best thing was, Green Arrow's like, you got a crossbow, huh? I ain't scared of a crossbow. And like he gets shot right as he's like, yeah, I'm not scared of no crossbow.
And like in his chest.
Like they say it's his shoulder later, but it looks like it's fucking in his heart the way they show it.
I thought that it was like, oh man, he got hit with a major
I just love it because he's like, what are you going to do with that? You think I'm scared of someone they're not going to shoot me with a crossbow? Oh my God, you shot me.
You shot me.
Crossbow.
I can't believe you shot me.
Yeah, it was so ridiculous. And then this is one of the best pages I've ever seen in comics. So he gets shot. They run off because they're like, oh, my God, we killed a guy. So then he's on the ground. He's like, oh, I need help quickly. And then two people, they're not rich, I don't think, but they're just regular people walking. And they're like, oh, my God, should we call an ambulance? And the guy that's walking with the girl who said that is like, nah, we don't want to get involved.
Yeah, it's not our problem.
Not our problem. He's like, please help. And then they just keep walking. And then he tries to go to a payphone. It's out of order. Then he sees a cop. He crawls to the cop. These are all like, 20 feet, 30 feet away from each other. So he's just slowly crawling on the ground with the arrow in his chest. And he goes to the cop, and he's like, help me. And the cop's like, go walk it off, fella. Go back to home and go to sleep or whatever. He just thinks he's a drunk or whatever. And he just walks away. He doesn't even look down. He was writing a ticket on a car. I guess it's a meter maid, so maybe that's why.
Maybe.
But either way, he almost gets hit by a taxi. The taxi does stop. Oh no, the taxi doesn't stop. The taxi just drives away because they're like, a guy with an arrow, he ain't gonna pay us. They drive away, and then just so happens he's walked far enough now. He's found the nearest hospital. So he goes to the hospital.
Also, this is a time where there wouldn't be an emergency hospital in every freaking corner.
No,
so
yeah,
he had to have been close enough to that hospital.
It's New York, so I don't know how. Far. But either way, he walked to a hospital, and even the hospital is like, yeah, we're busy tonight. Because you come back tomorrow morning, and he's like, I am shot. Like, and he falls down, and they're like, oh my God. And then even the doctor that treats him was like, man, if that wasn't an arrow, I wouldn't have given a fuck. Like, if it wasn't so immediately needed, I would not have treated you. It was just like, what the fuck is like the weird steps he goes to show how like fucked up society is right now.
Is this what it was like in the 70s?
It's so like hyperbolic though. Yeah. Like is it? There's no way it was actually like this, but I guess whatever era you're in seems like the worst era ever whenever you're talking about problems. So it's just funny that he does it. And then the best thing is, so the arrow that he got shot with, the doctor gives it back to him. He's like, oh, here's what I took out of you. And he's looking at it. He's like, this is a familiar arrow. And it's one of his. It just so happens that over the course of shooting arrows all over the place in his crime fighting, he leaves them around. He doesn't pick them all up all the time. And somehow one of these hoodlums found it. So he calls Green Lantern to help him trace the arrow. And the best thing about this story arc is Green Arrow has a hurt arm the whole time. So he can't fight. He can't do what he normally does.
So he can't use his bow and arrow.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly.
So he literally, what is he doing right now?
He just runs around with
he just kick
with a broken arm. Yeah, he does. He does like a Spartan kick one time. And he says the stupidest shit when he kicks people too. He's like, "I'm gonna stub my toe," basically, and he like kicks the dude in the gun or whatever. So then they track down like where the drugs are possibly coming from or whatever, because they're like, that was drug kids. They were junkies, so we're gonna track down the drug dealers. And so they find like a local slum or whatever, and they go to where they think these drug dealer is at. They're correct. In this building, we cut to the door of the drug dealer, and there's a man outside being like, "Please, I just need another hit. I'm in pain. Like, I don't have the money right now, but I promise I'll pay you back." And and this one, I mean, for a lefty, one thing I liked about this series, at least what we read, was that while they were pretty hard on Green Lantern in the first issue, they're pretty hard on Green Arrow and what he is like in his politics in these 2 issues. But basically, Green Arrow sees this guy on the ground like being like, I want junk so bad. I need some of that good stuff or whatever. And Green Arrow's just like, look at this trash. like it's disgusting. Like he needs to go cold turkey or whatever. Like, and that's the other thing. I think cold turkey was like a new saying at this time because they say it a lot. They also say every other like, "What's up, you jive?" Like turkey, whatever, like they say all kinds of.
Oh yeah, he calls Green
lingo.
Lantern chum a lot.
Yeah, chum.
What's up, chum?
Weird words. I don't know why they say it, but they knock on the door of this drug dealer, and he's like, "What do you want?" And then they kind of immediately attack him. So he runs, and there just so happens this is, I guess, before fire extinguishers and stuff. And I don't know why you would have this on your wall for a fire, but what they have for fire protection in his apartment complex is a bucket. That's red that says fire on it. That's empty. It's just hanging on the wall. And an axe. That's a fire axe, I guess. Just on the wall.
Yeah, fire axe,
And this is in his house. This isn't in the hallway where everybody can use it if they needed it. It's in his house. So either he's really prepared for a fire just in case, or it's a very weird thing. I don't know why. They included it because he needed to get an axe to fight them. So he picks up the axe, and luckily Green Lantern is there because he just turns the axe into goop.
I guess some kind of goop or rubber.
Gumby. He turns it into rubber, which was also a power. I was like, I don't think Green Lantern can do that. I don't think I've ever seen him like transmute materials with his ring. It's always you just make constructs with the ring. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the 70s he had more stuff. I don't know because we haven't read all of the Green Lanterns from the 70s, or I haven't. Have you, John?
No, definitely not.
But yeah, anyway, so they get him to talk basically and say like, where are the other junkies and stuff. So we cut to the other junkies where they're living, and we see it's the people that jumped Green Lantern at the beginning. He's got his crossbow. There's an Asian guy, an African American guy, and some guy in the shadows we can't see. And they're just talking about like, man, that was crazy, and we beat that guy up, and you shot him with a bow. Did you see that? You shot a guy with a bow or whatever. Like, they're just talking about it, and then they appear kind of randomly in this, or the Green Lantern and Green Arrow appear because they figured out where they live. And so they just appear and they like take them, like they're about to run away, and they take their hands and put them in green orbs or whatever and hold them there. Kind of like citizens arrest them. And then they're like, tell us who, where you get your junk from.
Where you getting your drugs from.
Yeah, where's your main drug smuggler guy or whatever, And they hear a voice that's someone they recognize say, like, we don't know, but like we'll help you find out whatever you need or whatever. And then Green Arrow turns around and it's Speedy. He's like, Speedy, my buddy, I'm glad you're here. He's not worried or anything.
Where have you been?
This is the greatest. He just thinks that Speedy is there like undercover, like he's trying to get in this dope den or whatever.
Oh yeah, he's like, I didn't. He was more like, I wasn't surprised to see you here. You're probably hot on their trail and like infiltrating them.
Yeah, luckily I left you here while I went to go bang Dinah so much, so you could do this job by yourself or whatever. And so that's kind of like they leave it at that, where he's just like under the, I guess thinking the guise that Speedy is not a junk addict. He's undercover. And, it's kind of like cops that go undercover with drugs and stuff. I've watched enough movies like
Yeah.
you end up having to do lines of coke and stuff.
I'm surprised Speedy wasn't like, man, you ruined my bus. I've been here for a month. I was just about to get him.
I've been undercover for months. Yeah, it was like The Departed or some shit. Yeah. But anyway, they get the info on where the drugs are coming from, and once again we get they're not silenced at least, but they love revolvers. They love drawing revolvers in comics. So we get like I guess where the drugs are going to get dropped off or whatever.
Yeah, they go to some airport.
And they like Green Arrow and Green Lantern are like, we got you, and they like melted the guns out of their hands I think he blows them up. So that makes more sense than the melting or whatever. Yeah. But then the junkie, the Asian guy that was with them, because they were like showing him where the airport was, he just bonks Green Lantern on the head.
Yeah, he takes like a wrench that he sees on the desk and bonks him, and it's like, wait a minute.
To be fair,
did he just beat?
That is a pipe wrench. This is a very heavy pipe wrench, but
yes, but he hit someone who fights cosmic beings.
Yes,
who have probably smacked him way harder than that pipe wrench.
Hey, he hit him right on the top of the head. Right.
Just the knockout spot. Everybody has that one spot. You just go dink.
I think even more unbelievable is even with a broken arm, Green Arrow is totally taken out by this Asian guy. He just slaps his hand out of the way, and then they beat the fuck out of him. Which I thought that was funny. They're just like, get him, and they're just like jump him again. They already beat him up once. And we find out there's like a middleman that they met at this place, and there's like uncut heroin. It's the good stuff. It's not even have talcum powder cut into it.
Yeah.
So this part I thought was pretty awesome. So they take that heroin and they're like, whoa, what are we gonna do? Like, they won't stay knocked out for a very long time. He's like, well, we'll just give them heroin. So they inject Green Lantern and Green Arrow with heroin. And this was some of the most cringy stuff, like what they think people talk like on heroin, and also how fast they recover from heroin. Because literally, like, one page, Green Lantern can barely talk, and it's not like he's drunk. Like, nonsense. Of course I can. That's how he's talking.
Yeah.
But it's more like he's drunk or whatever. So Speedy comes around the corner and finds them knocked out, but they're drugged. He gets Green Arrow or Green Lantern up, and he's like, wake up. He's able to wake him up. And then he's like, you can't use your ring because you're not like fully aware or whatever. And that's when he's like, of course I can. And then he ends up making a giant construct of Monster Hal Jordan because
Monster himself.
He can't control that's like what his will is right now, because it's a monster. He's riding the dragon.
Yeah.
Ride the tiger.
It's the monster within, so that's all you can think of.
You can see his stripes, so you know it's clean.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yes. So, gotta get away.
Get away.
Holy diver. Sorry, we
rest in peace, Dio.
Yeah. R.I.P. James Dio. So, what's his first name?
Ronnie,
that's right. Ronnie James Dio. Anyway, Green Lantern is able to overcome heroin.
Heroin Lantern?
Yeah, heroin Lantern, but also just like he's able to overcome heroin with his willpower.
Yes.
And
that's how strong his willpower is.
Yes, he's able to defeat the monster. And he's like, well, that was crazy. Luckily, I can will myself out of a heroin stupor or whatever. So he does that. Green Arrow is still like coming off of it or whatever. They're both like still kind of, ugh. But like then Speedy starts talking to them. Like, well, they bring him back to their house, I guess, or whatever. And Speedy's like talking to him, and he's basically complaining about how Green Arrow like left him hanging for so long to go with his new broad or whatever. And because I don't know if he's met Dinah yet. I don't think
I don't think he's met her. But it's weird, and how Jordan's not really paying attention to that part of it all. He's just like, I don't understand why people would do drugs.
Yeah, drugs are bad.
Yeah,
I don't get it. And
why
then
would
like
people poison themselves?
And then the greatest thing is Speedy's like, well, maybe people are alone. Maybe they look up to an older man who leaves them, and then they turn to drugs to feel better about themselves.
It's the substitute for friendship.
Yeah, and it's like the weirdest, like straightforward, like I'm a drug addict, and like they don't pick up on it at all.
Green Lantern and Green Arrow are like, well, we got to go back out there and get the drug lord, so you stay here.
Anyway, glad you were on the case, Speedy. Good job. And then they leave, and then Green Arrow's like, oh, wait, I forgot my hat or something. So he goes back into the room, and all of a sudden he sees Speedy doing heroin.
Speedy, you're a junkie.
And he's like, who else did you think I was talking about? As he just injected heroin. And then there is no needle. On the cover, they had a needle, but they don't have a needle in this scene because...
That's because the covers you can get away with.
Yeah. And then there's also...
the next cover makes up for it, though.
Yeah, the next cover is a giant needle behind Green Lantern being like, no! And Green Arrow holding what looks like a dead Speedy in his hands. So, and we see that this comic was the winner of Academy Award for Best Comic. Is there an Academy Awards for comics, John?
Apparently.
I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, this is before Comic-Con, so.
Well, they don't have it anymore, but.
Yeah, and it says more deadly than the atom bomb. I don't know if that's true. I don't think drugs are more deadly.
Tell your children. What are you talking about?
I'll tell my kids.
Yeah.
I don't have kids, so but if I did have kids, I would tell them.
There's Reefer Madness.
Oh, I don't know if you've seen. This is kind of a tangent, but okay, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I get a lot of commercials on those videos because I don't have like an ad blocker on my phone or whatever. So when I watch them on there, and oh my god, there are commercials that are like, vaping has destroyed my life. I can't think about anything else. Like, it's literally like, this is your brain on drugs.
Yes.
Like Smash with an egg.
I've seen many of those.
But it's about vaping, which is like, what?
Vaping's
like,
not, yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like, just say they're bad for you and they will give you cancer potentially. Like, what? Like, why would you make it be like, I couldn't think about anything else in my high school life. I was addicted to vaping and like, I don't know. It's so ridiculous. It's almost as ridiculous as this comic because it starts off with Green Lantern backhanding Speedy, who and now we got we see the syringe and everything and the morphine bottle or whatever the fuck he's injecting. But yeah, we see he backhands Speedy, who, is a junkie and was just injecting himself.
He's like, hit me if that's what you got to do to make yourself feel better.
Yeah. I learned it from you, Dad. So yeah, basically,
it was really surprising to see the hero of this comic hit a child.
And also, he's supposed to be like the social conscious dude who understands like the plight of everybody, homeless people, poor people, black people.
Unless they were actually fighting, because when Bat was like, did Batman ever hit Robin? I don't remember.
I don't know. I've always seen that meme where he slaps, but I don't know if that is an actual issue. Or if that's like they put two panels together or something. But yeah, so Speedy, he tells Speedy, like, just get out. And Speedy's like, don't worry, I'm going. And then Green Arrow's like, why did I hit him? How did I fail the kid, And it's like, you left him. Obviously, you just left a teenager by himself in a house.
But I taught him to be strong and independent.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he wasn't just hanging out with the Teen Titans. I mean, you got hot chicks in there and everything. You got Raven. You got goth girls. Go hang out with Raven. She's not taken, I don't think, right? I don't know. I don't read too much Teen Titans. This time you had... No, this is before Terra, because Terra was in the 80s from that Wolfman run that we read. Wolfman Perez, R.I.P. George Perez. Yep. But yeah, so... yeah, this is so ridiculous that they, the drama they put between them and like how crazy Speedy gets with his drug habit. But then we cut to the two druggies that are left, which are the Asian guy and the black guy that were part of Speedy's drug crew. And they're like, oh man, we got some more heroin. And they go to Speedy's house. And now that everybody's left, they find some drugs on the floor and they're like, sweet. Cause that's what Green Arrow knocked on the floor.
And it's the pure stuff that's not cut yet. So it's even more.
It's the best stuff. And they're like, we haven't tried non-cut stuff. And the Asian guy's like, well, I'm down to try it. And they're like, we don't know how much to take. He's like, don't worry about it. I'll take some and then you can figure out how much you want. So then the Asian guy ties off, injects the pure heroin into his veins, and he looks like he's having an orgasm. I mean, if you're going to go, this is the way to go. He looks pretty fucking happy about where he is now. And he dies, and I'm sure everybody's sad, but he seemed pretty fucking high and happy about it. So he dies like instantly. Like he injects it. He's like, I'm nowhere.
Flat. Right on his face.
Face plant, yeah. And his friend is like, no. Oh my God, he overdosed. He's dead. And yeah, he's just yelling about it. And he runs out. And then, and I will say, in the middle of a lot of these scenes that are supposed to be really serious, Green Lantern has to pause and do his power up. Just recharge.
My ring's getting low. Gotta go home. And
Oh,
recharge
guy
it.
died? Oh, no worries. Before I go out, I gotta charge my ring. Let me make sure I say this whole fucking thing again. Every issue, it's like that he's got to say it at least once.
I also love that Hal Jordan has an apartment while he's.
Of course he does.
Well, he didn't like stay with anybody, or like Oliver didn't like hook him up with a place or something.
Maybe he did. Maybe Oliver was like, "Stay at my bachelor pad."
Oh, maybe.
Maybe that's where I go when Dinah's not around. It's my other place to go. But we get to see a nice shirtless Hal Jordan in this as well. He's muscular, 70s muscular, hairy chest and all. So anyway, Hal Jordan goes back to Speedy's house just to talk to them. He's basically like, I need to talk to Speedy and like help him out. Like I think Oliver went a little too overboard. Yeah, I can get through to him. So he goes in and of course he finds the Asian guy dead. And in the meantime, he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I got to find Ollie and figure out like what's going on. You know, like we got to tell him he died, and also like we got to catch these guys. So Ollie is back at the airport and he's tracking who like the head guy is. He eventually finds out who the head guy is by like beating the fuck. This is where he says he like beats the fuck out of a guy because he can't punch really because he's got his left hand in a sling. So he like kicks. He like Spartan kicks the dude's gun out of his hand.
Aha!
He's like, I happen to get my jollies stubbing my toe. And he like kicks the guy with his toe. Which I was like, really? That's what you're going to go with on your line of
Yep.
winning?
I love that he's still carrying around his pack of arrows even though he cannot use them.
Well, yeah, it's part of his uniform. But we'll find out that comes in handy because he gets captured by the bad guys when he finds out who it is. He goes to the docks. That's where he finds out like, oh, the main bad guy is going to be at the docks.
From the hangar? All right, then we go to the docks.
Yes. And on the docks, he gets knocked out because he's in his uniform. He's in his outfit.
Just stand out on the docks. Like,
so obviously,
I bet it's that boat right there, the big one.
Yeah, the bad guys are like, well, take care of Green Arrow. He's right there. So the goons like take care of him and they beat him up and they tie him to an anchor. And they're bad because they use Nazi guns too. I appreciate they actually, instead of having a revolver, they have one of the most iconic weird guns you could possibly draw for a 70s bad guy, the Nazi Luger. So, but hey, he's a bad guy, so that
makes sense.
There you go. But we find out the bad guy is actually some not who you would think. He's a rich dude who like rubs elbows. His name's Solomon. What's his last name? I can't remember his last name.
He's the head of a pharmaceutical company.
Yes, so I appreciated this. He's the head of a pharmaceutical company who, instead of making pharmaceuticals like deadly or whatever, or like addictive, he's actually having his pharmaceutical chemist make really good heroin. So like it's kind of a weird like side job or whatever that he's doing. But he's rubbing elbows with judges and senators and stuff on his yacht. And that's like how he's getting away with this. Hooper
Pharmaceuticals.
There you go. So Solomon Hooper is his name. And so his goons have Green Arrow. They throw Green Arrow in the water. He's tied up with chains to an anchor. And he's going down. And he's like, luckily, somehow he's able to get his hands out of the chains or whatever. And he's like, luckily I have my
underwater blowtorch.
Yeah,
arrow.
My fucking acetylene torch arrow. And he pulls that arrow out and it lights underwater and he cuts the chains. I don't understand why if he has his hands free, why can't he just take off the chains?
Because they're still wrapped around him. He needs to get up for air fast.
Okay, well whatever. So
it's faster to
luckily he has a acetylene torch arrow. It would make more sense if he's got a belt. Just having the belt luckily I keep my acetylene pocket torch.
No, it's like Hawkeye. You got to have all the arrow. There's an arrow for everything. Doesn't matter what it is.
That's a good question. Green Arrow was first, right?
I think so.
I'm sure Green Arrow was
pretty
first.
sure Green Arrow was
because
first.
Marvel copies everything good from DC. So anyway, yeah, Green Arrow is underwater. He gets out.
But again, it's weird that he has his arrows. Again, he doesn't have his bow with him. He has his arrows.
It was specifically for this one
thing. And then you're also like, tie him up to the anchor with his arrows.
Yes, for sure. Got to make sure we give him a possible escape route. So as he's swimming up, before he breaches, we see Green Lantern appear, and then Ollie breaches, and he's like, "Hey, get those guys! They threw me in there and tried to kill me." And so they take care of him. And then once again, weird shit that he does. He makes gorillas as constructs, and then he has the gorillas throw the men in boxes, and then he slams the boxes shut. So they probably died on the docks in the hot sun in those boxes the next day. But the other funny thing that he does is he makes blow dryers.
Yeah, blow dryers to dry off his. He pulls Ollie out of the water and he dries off Green Arrow's suit and hair.
Sure, that's what happens. I don't know. It's the weirdest looking constructs.
I assume that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, but anyway, we cut to Speedy, who I guess Ollie has, or not Ollie, Green Lantern has talked to him and has left him with Dinah.
Yeah.
The girlfriend of Ollie, who if I was Speedy, I'd be like, "Fuck you, bitch," because you stole my man.
You stole my man.
You stole my father figure or whatever. So, but she's able to help him out and help him detox. So he starts throwing up, and he's going through the withdrawals, hardcore, cold turkey. Once again, they say cold turkey a lot, and so we cut to Mr. Hooper, who is we find out he's the head of a pharmaceutical company, and then Green Lantern goes to approach him in his, like, he just appears out of nowhere as the guy's like, "Good job, chemist. That looks like some great heroin you're making.
Super heroin.
Some super duper heroin. Our customers are going to love injecting that into their veins illegally." And then Green Lantern shows up and is like, "Ha, I caught you," saying the bad stuff or whatever. And so he's like, "Save it for the judges. And I know you got him on your payroll, but I'll make sure you get justice." And so he takes him on, basically. Just the guy's like about to jump out of the window, and Green Lantern comes over. And I like that he doesn't use his ring when he's fighting people as much. He'll use it like for groups of people that are attacking, but when it's one-on-one, he tends to just grab them and like throw them around. Yeah. So that's funny. But yeah, he basically beats the guy up, and then Ollie shows up and is able to help him. And then
he does do one thing with an arrow. He like holds it with his one arm and then pulls the arrow back with his teeth to, like, I guess, knock the heroin out of the chemist's hand or whatever. That was kind of fun.
Is that what? Okay.
Yeah, he pulls it with his teeth. He's like, "Ha!"
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. For some reason I thought it was a construct that hit it, but yeah, he's able to shatter the heroin with his. Wow, he's that good.
He's that good.
He can shoot an arrow with his teeth. But yeah, so yeah, he's able to shatter the beaker that has the heroin in it. So then we cut to the funeral of the Asian guy who died, and Speedy shows up with Green Lantern and Green Arrow, and they're like, "Man, we're sorry about this."
But they're incognito. They're in there.
Yeah, they're in their normal. They're not in their Green Lantern. They're not in their superhero outfits. And Speedy shows up with Dinah, and Ollie's like, "Man, I'm really sorry. I wish I could have helped Speedy out more and been there and stuff." And then Speedy shows up and is like, "Don't worry, Oliver. Like, we're okay now. Like, I beat the habit. Like, it only took one night or whatever to beat the habit of heroin."
Hey, if you've got a strong will, and apparently, I mean, he's not Green Lantern will, but he's Speedy. He speeds through stuff.
It'd be better if he was on speed. It'd be better for Speedy, But anyway, he is mad at Ollie, though, so he actually punches Ollie in the face, and Ollie's like, "Why'd you do that?" Like, he's like, obviously Speedy doesn't have very good punches, because Ollie's like, "Hey, man, why'd you tap me like that on the chin?" Slightly. And he basically explains, like, how
he inspired him to go cold turkey.
Yeah, and he says, "I've been sharing a small piece of the pain I've just gone through these past days." That's when he hit him. And then he says, "The kind of pain thousands of kids are going through every day because the uncaring and unthinking society turns its back on them." And we get a little political speech by Speedy here, who basically just says, like, we should do more. We should do more for people in society.
Drugs are the symptom.
Drugs are bad. Drugs are bad, okay? And then Ollie starts crying, and it says in a narration bubble, it says, "It's a very large lump of pride which forms in the throat of our Oliver Queen as his boy becomes a man," which I thought was funny. I was like, okay, sure.
All right.
It only took heroin to make him snap into manhood. Not the being part of a Teen Titans or anything like that. So then we get, I don't know, this was kind of a big issue. That's why I figured we'd add it. It's only 13 pages. It's like half of an issue. But basically, this is Green Lantern number 87, or Green Lantern Green Arrow number 87. And it is the first appearance of John Stewart, Green Lantern. And so this was ridiculous. We'll just kind of go through this one quickly. But basically, one day, Green Lantern, he's on his, normal, got to save people, looking for stuff going on. He finds there's an earthquake. He finds a bridge that has collapsed. He goes to help people on that bridge, and there's a man who I didn't know who it was at first because he doesn't look anything like he looks later on, but he's helping a kid that's like on the end of this bridge, like it's the littlest piece of asphalt she's standing on, and he's like, "Come on, kid, you got to come to me. I can't go out there or else it'll collapse." And she's like, "No, I'm scared." And then he's like, "Fuck it, I'll just go get her." And or actually like a bus. This is where I thought, oh, they're going to do the bus thing. But like a bus, the school bus the kids were on starts rolling on its own, I guess, because the bridge starts leaning. And then it hits him and her off the bridge. It doesn't kill the man. But we find out the man is Guy Gardner. And if you know anything, Guy Gardner was the second Green Lantern that is second guy that they designated a backup as Green Lantern. Like the Guardians were like,
he's the understudy Green Lantern.
Yeah, and later on he becomes more fun or different kind of a Green Lantern, and this is just kind of like a normal dude. But later on he becomes like a cocky asshole. So
he's the cool like cut off arm jacket Green Lantern.
Yeah, he was the '90s Green Lantern. Yeah, well, he was the '90s Green Lantern. Well, he was one of them because he was called Warrior in the '90s.
It's the same time as Superboy, right? Because they have the Superboy with the
leather jacket,
with the leather jacket, with
Lennon glasses.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
something about that.
So Guy Gardner gets injured, and so the Owens find out, and they're like, "Oh my God, your backup's taken out. Well, we got to find a new guy for you." And they pick an African American gentleman who's getting hassled by the cops, and he's kind of lipping off to the cops. And luckily, Green Lantern appears, but Green Lantern hears them, and he's like, "Really, you want this Joker? He doesn't respect authority, all this kind of stuff. You think he'll be a good cop?" And the Owen that's with him is like, "Yeah, he'll be great." And then he also says he accuses Green Lantern of being racist. He's like, "Look, I don't care about your race squabbles." And he's like, "Whoa! I didn't mean because he's black. I didn't say it was because he's black. I just thought because he's like disrespectful or whatever." But we find out like basically they're like, "You have to train him, Green Lantern. He's going to be your like third understudy or whatever." So Hal Jordan like introduces him to being a Green Lantern.
I love that they go to like a
milk shop or malt shop or something. Yeah, and
he's like, "Hey, over milkshakes, how do you feel? Do you want to be a Green Lantern?"
And he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna be a Black Lantern." This one, I could definitely see being problematic nowadays. There's a different. I don't know how to say it.
This is definitely the one that touches on race the most.
Yes, and it's also it just feels tone deaf now because we have different like sensibilities regarding writing black characters and stuff, and this definitely has a weird feel to it.
I mean, this is definitely some white guys writing a black character in the 70s.
Yes, I mean they've done it before, but it's been fine, but this one just felt really like, I don't know if it was because they're making him a hero or something, and so they're like really going out of their way. But basically, they show him how Hal Jordan shows him how to become a Green Lantern, trains him a little bit, like how to fly, shows him how to make his costume. He says like, "I ain't putting a face mask on. Like I don't care. I want to show everybody my face. I got nothing
Black
to hide."
man lets it all hang out.
Hell yeah.
It's a specific
line. Yeah, there's a lot of like I think it's more like a power, like a black power kind of mentality is what he's going for.
Yeah.
It doesn't really read as well nowadays, but I think that's what he was going for, is like, say it loud, I'm black and proud, like James Brown stuff. He even brings up James Brown in this, so
that's he'd be like, James Brown wouldn't wear something.
Yeah, because he puts on like, Hal Jordan's suit for him, and he's like, this is whack, but he still wears it. So but yeah, so like then after they were training, they find like a protest that was going on for some senator who's a racist senator, and he's running for election. And I don't know if he's a senator yet, but he's a political candidate who's racist running for election. And Green Lanterns, or both of them, go to stop this gasoline truck that just happens to be running on the tarmac crazy.
Yeah, I guess my assumption is like it obviously like got out of control, so maybe somebody accidentally or purposefully sent it towards them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure, but basically in comic books back then, they'd just be like, and there's a rogue gasoline truck and we got to stop it. So that's basically what happens. And I thought this was funny. The Green Lantern, Hal Jordan's like, look, we got to protect this guy because, even though he's a terrible person, and they make sure that, everybody is not on his side. Like Hal Jordan's like, he's terrible, but we got to let him speak because of free speech. And that was another thing that probably didn't age well or whatever, because people got different ideas about that nowadays. But Jon Stewart is definitely like, well, fuck that guy. Like, I don't want to help that guy out. And he specifically actually punctures the oil truck, and it sprays. This was the part that I was like, this is kind of cringy, but it sprays oil on that guy's face. And then Jon Stewart's like, basically says some things about him being black now,
because he's
got oil all over him. Like, oh, I bet you don't like that, basically, because you're black and you don't like that. So it's kind of weird, but we cut to
cringy for sure.
Cringy, yes. We cut to a stadium an hour later where this political candidate is giving a speech, and literally, I mean, he is saying racist stuff that, like he's saying black people have smaller brains and stuff, and it's not their fault, but we have to
it's
help
science.
them, it's just science, and Hal Jordan is like, well, yeah, we gotta let him speak because it's free speech, and Jon Stewart's not really saying he shouldn't be able to speak. He's just saying I having to sit here and listen to this because we're protecting him is something I don't want to do. Like, it's against my will, pretty much. So we find out that someone tries to assassinate him. A gun goes off, and we see Green Lantern Hal Jordan track him down, capture the man, and he goes all out. He punches the guy, and then we see on the outside there's another person that's got a submachine gun, and he starts shooting into where the, I guess, drivers are being held for the senator and stuff.
Yeah, and there's cops outside, I guess protecting, controlling the area.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure they do this to specifically show that Jon Stewart is very competent as a Green Lantern, and he's he knows what's going on more than Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan's like, wait, what's going on? I heard gunshots, and Jon Stewart's like, well, Hal, you're way behind the ball, but basically, I knew that guy was a fake assassination attempt, and the real killing was going to go on the outside with this guy with the submachine gun, because they opened the gun and there's blanks. That was the gun that shot at the senator, and they paid this guy to do that fake assassination attempt. But on the outside, they were going to have someone come with an actual submachine gun and shoot a bunch of people and then blame it on the black protesters. So then he could say, look, I told you these protesters are bad.
Yep.
And so, that's kind of what it was. And then Hal Jordan's basically like, well, I think you're going to be fine. You're going to be the next Great Lantern or whatever.
I don't know about your style, but you definitely, know what you're doing or something.
Yes. So, that's the introduction. It's a little cringy. Like we said, it's definitely dated. But that is the first appearance of Jon Stewart, who becomes one of the most popular Green Lanterns because in the 90s, he's in the animated Justice League show and stuff. So he gets way cooler. In this, he's an architect, they mentioned. But later on, his mythology becomes that he was in Vietnam, and he was a veteran. He's a Marine.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, that's the Jon Stewart I knew. I didn't know this, architect guy. But I think back then, they were we want to show a black man who's, super smart, basically. So, they're trying to portray that image to kids that they, are caring about now as an audience. But they were neglected. We did that comic book, The Invisible Men of Comic Books book. Yeah. That kind of, this was when people started caring about that audience more and trying to involve them or include them in the characters and stuff. So, even though it's white guys writing it, it's still them trying to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one thing you can say about that, comics trying to be ahead of the curve on all of that.
And they were
I
mean, a lot of media would not have done any of this stuff. So they were ahead on that kind of stuff. I mean, we've read books by trans writers, by gay writers with gay characters, trans characters, all that kind of stuff, way before it was socially acceptable.
For real, that's one thing we'll say. And as much as we're, celebrating and lifting up people now, is that we definitely need to go back and look at all the
trailblazers. They were there and they don't get celebrated enough. So
sincerely, there's so many people that have been fighting the good fight that are now becoming the most socially forward, and everybody is really paying attention and seeing these things now. But there are people that have been in these industries that have been that were doing it for years and years beforehand. So
and it seems like they get left out a little bit. So we try to always highlight those people as we read read books for certain months or whatever that we celebrate that stuff. But anyway,
I was just gonna say I do like that. Would love to see a Jon Stewart in current day with. I know it's a smaller afro, but like a little afro.
Yeah,
because I do kind of like that on him too. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he usually has the marine cut.
Yeah, the marine cuts
most of the time.
So, but I do like this tight little afro on him. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, his design's fine. I like his later on suit that he gets and stuff. Like where he gets like the green eyes too. Like, yeah, that looks cool.
The green eyes, and his
suit comes down to his like shoulders. Or
yeah, his suit does his cool. That's true. I like.
Well, he's got the black that comes down from his neck to his shoulders. Yeah,
I like that they definitely all do get distinct Green Lantern suits.
Yes.
As we get like more into current age times, whereas like a lot of the suits kind of like were similar for characters back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the end of this. Like, well, it's not the end of the trade, but like I said, we just picked out these specific issues to kind of give you a taste of some of these old school fun stories, and definitely check it out. I enjoyed what I read of it. I wouldn't mind going and reading the middle ones that are like, we're hard traveling heroes on the road. On the road trip, yeah.
I don't think I would either. I read the other half of this one too, and it was fun. Just because this one, they're all. Like you said, we have them teaming up, but then this one is very much like Green Lantern's got his little story, and then Green Arrow's got his little story. And Green Arrow's story is very insequential in this one. It's just kind of like him, like finding himself, and like he's on the streets and kind of being like feeling what it is to be more of like underprivileged. Like he's like trying to live that life.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. Like he's a millionaire.
He is because they state that in this one for sure.
So one of the things I thought about this. On the first issue was like, man, this guy's trying to sell this tenement to get rich. I'm like, you're a millionaire. Why don't you just buy the tenement from him?
Yeah.
Solved.
Bruce,
problem solved.
Buy something.
Well, no, I just mean like that could have been if the guy only wants to sell it and make money, then why don't you buy it and then you become a better landlord to these people?
Because he's a hero first.
I mean, that is a trope that people say a lot nowadays. Like, why doesn't Bruce Wayne give his money to taxes or whatever? But like, or the state or something. But
he needs that unlimited money to fund his superhero.
Yeah. But I just feel like he could have given that, like with this specific storyline, bought that building. It couldn't be that much money, and
that's true. 1970.
It's a slum tenement or whatever, and it's not going to go for that much. So
he could have bought it and fixed it all up for him, and
and just charge everybody no rent or whatever, let everybody live there for free. Because he's a millionaire, right? I don't know.
Something. Yeah, give him a break.
I don't know. It was kind of ridiculous. But so anyway, John, what did you think of this? What would you give it?
It was fun. Like you said, it was weird at first to see Green Lantern fighting along street level heroes. Not like with heroes, I should say, but doing the street level work.
Right, because he's punching people. He's doing kind of detective stuff more.
Yeah, everything that when he uses his construct ring in this, again, I've seen corny things before, but because he's doing all this street level stuff, everything in this is like
pretty corny,
just to get the point across. Like anytime he picks someone up or put it's like a little cage or a cushion or a couch or just like a blob around them. And it was fun though. Like I could
top. He puts a guy in a top. Yeah.
So it's fun. Like it's very very 70s, but very easy to read.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem reading
hard on that. Yeah, that's what I was saying. 70s is for the fun and weirdness of it, but it's definitely not hard to read. It was a breeze. So, and I liked all the story. Like it was fun and different. Like you could the times again you can kind of tell.
Yeah.
What they're going for, and maybe it's a little definitely feels a little dated now, but it was still fun.
Most of the clothes that they wear and their lingo, because they say like they talk jive a lot,
Yes, but
I talk jive.
Hi stewardess, I speak jive. But I really enjoyed it, and again with Neil Adams' art,
the art is fantastic. I mean, every page of this,
every
is
page
fantastic.
Is so good.
Yeah.
And
I'd say the only thing you dropped the ball on was the guns. It's just the revolver with silencers on them.
Maybe that was part of the comics code. Like you gotta have.
You know what? That's probably true. You can only show Nazi guns and
bad guys have Nazi guns, or
revolvers with silencers. Yeah. All right, now we know why Moon Knight had it and this one.
Yeah. But yeah, I liked it a lot overall. I would say the art definitely, like you said, like kind of like lifts it, because like you said, it doesn't really skimp ever on the art on this, so it's always looks great.
Let's do 2 different grades on this. Let's do it based on the art. Like if you were just like you want to look at Neil Adams' art, what would you give it? And then because he's the one who passed, and then as an actual like comic, what would you give it?
Well, yeah. Well, then on the art, I would say this is like 8.5. This is really top tier. And it's beautiful. And then as far as the comic overall, I would say I would probably give this, for me, this is like a 6.5. Like I really enjoyed it for what it is. You could definitely still give this to, I think, anybody who has a basic understanding.
I would say anybody. You know, you give this to someone who likes Arrow on the CW. This would be ridiculous just for that. Like it would be fun to be like, you want to read some Green Arrow? Check this shit out, and then just be like, what the fuck? Just a weird, like, you know, interesting comic. But you know, it's a groundbreaking one, you know, because the political stuff.
Yeah, I would say I would give this to like a high school kid and be like this is a cool you know, some of the things you're learning about, like, check out this comic. Like this,
that would be a cool section in a history class when you're learning about the civil rights movement and stuff. Be like, this is what was going on in pop culture in comics, because comics are big now, so we're going to like include those in pop culture. And you could definitely show some of these. And
for real, I mean, they really could take at least a little part of like the things they were doing in comics at the time, to highlight some things like the X-Men in particular, you know, things like that. Like, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so you're going to give this a 6.5 as an overall comic and an 8.5 for the art.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to give this, I think out of all the stuff that Neil Adams did, the best stuff is Batman. And that's like, to me, like a 10. Like the best. Like Ra's al Ghul issues, it's so good. But like, so this, I think this is like a little less than that, just because like the faces and stuff are super detailed and awesome. Some of the backgrounds, I feel like, don't get a lot of attention, but that could just be because, you know, it's a monthly comic and you have to put this shit out. So you only got so much time, you know what I mean? So
well, he draws it like sometimes maybe the coloring people are
that's true too. I'm sure this was recolored. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like, I don't know what this looked like originally, so I'm sure it was recolored. So just take that with a grain of salt. It might have looked better or worse. I'm probably better if I had to guess in the 70s on newsprint or whatever. But and this is from 1970, so this is like 50 years old now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
weird to say that out loud.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, like I said, Neil Adams just passed, so you know this is like him in his prime at this time. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one. I think I'm gonna give this one an 8.5 as well as on the art, and then on the story, I like laughed out loud a bunch on this. So if you're into DC and you like the deep cuts and you want to see like the silly 70s like Superman or whatever, like that kind of stuff, the weird shit where you're like, what the fuck? Like that panel where Batman slaps Robin is possibly from the 70s, if I was going to guess.
Yeah.
Because what? Like that's kind of what you say when you read these things in the 70s. And this is one of those kind of like, we're trying something new and we're going to cause like, because of all the social issues, we're going to like kind of change the way these characters have been acted before, and we're going to give them different kinds of aspects to their personalities. And some of those make them funny, you know, like just Green Arrow slapping Speedy for no reason. Or not no reason, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
but definitely like a very like knee-jerk reaction to him doing drugs.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So I'm going to give this one a 7. I thought it was pretty fun as like someone who likes DC a lot. And I if you are like, I don't think there's anything that happens to this that is consequential to like continuity in DC.
I doubt it.
So like, other than first appearance of Jon Stewart, Speedy on drugs, you know, stuff like that, like little moments like that. If you wanted to read the first appearance of, you know, this is where it is. But for the most part, I don't think anything happens really that is like you need to know this for continuity reasons.
You just get something in the 80s of Green Arrow being like, hey, Speedy, you remember that time you were addicted to heroin?
Remember that time you were on heroin? Wasn't that awesome? I know they bring that back like later on, like where he's like, he's like in his character, he's like, I'm an addict. I struggle with addiction.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, okay.
Like that comes back in the nowadays stuff, like even so.
Okay.
But he's older, obviously now. But like, because he ages up. Green Arrow doesn't though, so that's weird. But like, yeah. So I think it was a good run overall. And that is our coverage of Neil Adams, who just passed. Now, unfortunately, we lost another great artist of DC and Marvel Comics.
Yeah, we kind of losing, like, I mean, I would say like Mount Rushmore people of.
Oh yeah,
of
for
art.
Sure. Like amazing comic artists.
Yeah.
We lost George Perez last week, who we have done a couple of his books already. We did Crisis on Infinite Earths. We did, I think he did Infinity Gauntlet too, at least some of those pages. So he's done amazing work for both companies. And we're going to do a character that he did that we haven't really covered here before on their own series. We're doing his Wonder Woman series, Volume 1, I think, like whatever the first story arc is of that volume. And yeah, so apparently that story arc is where like the Ares stuff happens, like that the movie was kind of based on and whatnot.
Nice.
So I don't know if this storyline is that, but it's his initial run, and it went on for a while. So I'm assuming it was pretty hot at the beginning. So that's why I was like, instead of picking out one of the random stories from it that might be more popular, let's start at the beginning. And like if you were gonna start it, if you bought a trade, it's like says number 1 on it. Let's get it. Like so, we're gonna read the Wonder Woman George Perez series, Volume 1. And, in honor of him, these people need to stop dying so we can get on to other comics.
But stay, that's one thing, at least we have this amazing, stuff that's going to live on forever from them.
Yes.
So,
and top amazing artwork.
Yeah. And I'm excited to check out, I don't think I've ever read a like specific Wonder Woman story.
Yeah.
So she's always been a supporting character in like the Justice League. Or
yeah, she's always like one of the Trinity or whatever. But
exactly.
like, yeah.
So I'm excited.
I know I've read her stuff previously, but I can't name like a storyline. So like I haven't delved that deep into it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There doesn't really seem to be any, like, other than this run, I guess, iconic story arcs that I knew about. Because I didn't know about this one until recently, like when they started putting it in trade collections. Then it got brought back. But I did not read comics in the 80s, so I didn't know of this work. So I'm excited to get into it too. And that's it for this issue. Like I said, check out Wonder Woman if you want to read that before we spoil everything in it. And if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planestrains&comicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com.
Don't forget about our Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We also have our TikTok up and running.
TikTok!
TikTok. We got to get with the times. So
these kids and their TikToks.
Yeah, so we're throwing up a lot of the mini things on there, obviously, because you can't have long items on TikTok. But that'll be a good way if if you're scrolling on there anyway for some of the fun random stuff. You could check out one of our we got John's short shorts now. It just started finally.
Yeah, John finally did one of his reviews of Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer Volume 2 or number 2.
Number 2, and then we've got some of Matt's more recent comic reviews on there. And so we'll definitely be getting those out there too. And then we also have our Patreon going right now. We have a couple tiers.
We got the blue and gold tier, which gets you can vote on polls to pick what we're going to do for our main episodes. And then we'll do shout outs on there as well. And then you can also join our Patreon for Hellblazer. And that is me doing a Matt's Minis like I do for Swamp Thing, but for Hellblazer. And I'm doing it for the whole series. So I think I'm on issue 20 now. So you got 20 episodes of good Hellblazer goodness. That is for the most part in tandem with Swamp Thing. I started when it started in continuity with Swamp Thing. So if you're listening to Swamp Thing and you've already heard those episodes, you will know what's going on in Hellblazer and why it's tying in. So enjoy those if you want, and go check us out on patreon.com/planestrains&comicbooks, all one word. And with that being said, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Rest in peace, Neil Adams. See you on the next one.
Rest in peace. Bye.